Imagine for a second that you're a 911 dispatcher right here in Langlade County.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
It's a busy Tuesday afternoon, and suddenly the line clicks open. You're holding your breath right, just listening intently for a cry for help or a car crash or, I don't know, maybe a domestic dispute. You are totally bracing for the absolute
Right.
worst.
Because that's the job.
Exactly. And instead, over this open line, you hear someone just casually asking for like extra ketchup with their cheeseburger.
Honestly, it is the ultimate anticlimax.
Yeah.
But for a dispatcher, that silence right before the burger order, that is pure adrenaline.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, they literally have to treat every single open line as a worst-case scenario until they can, definitively prove otherwise.
Which is exactly what we are getting into today. So welcome to the deep dive. Grab your coffee, pull up a chair, or, just imagine we're leaning over the backyard fence to catch up on the neighborhood.
I love that visual.
Right. Because today we are completely skipping the polished community newsletters and we're looking at the raw, unfiltered reality of our town. We've got the latest weekly Antigo Police and Langlade County Sheriff's blotters from late June and early July of 2026.
The real stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff. Our mission here is to sort of sift through the routine traffic stops in the 10-4s to find the actual beating heart of the community.
Well, and I'd argue the blotter is, probably the most honest document a town actually produces.
Oh, absolutely.
It is where the pristine idea of small-town living just smashes into the messy, unpredictable reality of human and, animal nature. It's essentially this massive data set of people just trying to get through their week.
It really is. Now, before we really get into the weeds here, let's lay down some ground rules for you. We are keeping this strictly neighborly.
Highly important.
Yes. This isn't the rumor mill, folks, so you won't hear any specific names today. And
Yeah.
we are totally leaving out exact house addresses. We're just looking at the broader safety trends, the local patterns, and what folks been up to around our well-known intersections and landmarks.
Which is crucial because when you zoom out from the individual names, you start to see the fascinating mechanics of how a rural community actually functions.
Yeah, you see the patterns.
Right. The friction points become really, really obvious.
Well, and speaking of friction points, I want to start out in the county where our agricultural space sort of blends into our local infrastructure.
Oh, the animal encounters.
Yes. Looking at this week's reports, the ecosystem out here, it does not respect property lines. Like, picture this. It's the early hours of the morning, pitch black, out near the intersection of Crestwood Road and Orchard Road.
Okay, I know right where that is.
Right. A driver comes around the bend, and there is just a dark brown horse casually wandering down the middle of the asphalt.
See, that's a terrifying scenario for a driver.
Right.
People often think of a loose animal as just this cute, rustic inconvenience, like, oh, look, a horse. But from a public safety perspective, a 1,000-pound horse on a dark road is a massive, unpredictable, kinetic hazard.
Kinetic hazard, I like that term.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a boulder that can suddenly change direction.
And it wasn't just the horse either. A few days later, out on County Road C and Rangeline Road, dispatch gets a frantic call about a cow and a calf right up against the fence line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, practically on the shoulder of the road. The caller was genuinely terrified the calf is going to wander out and get hit. So I look at this and I have to wonder, are people just getting careless with their gates, or is this just the everyday reality of rural fencing?
It's almost entirely the latter, honestly. Agricultural boundaries are not permanent fixtures. I mean, they're active infrastructure that degrades over time.
Right, weather and stuff.
Exactly. Wood rots, wire stretches, frost heaves, pull the posts totally out of alignment. So the blotter essentially acts as this localized sensor network for when that infrastructure fails.
Oh, that's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah, when a fence breaks, the sheriff's department is usually the first to know because the consequences spill onto the public roadways almost immediately.
I always think of these animal-related calls as like the rural Midwest equivalent of big city traffic jams.
Ha, how so?
Well, in Chicago, you're late to work because of a multi-car pileup on the expressway. Around here, you're late because someone's livestock decided to take a morning stroll down the center line.
That's a funny image. But the stakes are often much higher than a simple delay, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A horse wandering near Crestwood is a close call. But the logs this week also show the unavoidable clashes. We had multiple severe car versus deer incidents on County Road V and State Road 55.
The classics.
Sadly, yes. In one instance, the impact was so severe the deer was killed instantly in the ditch. The driver managed to sort of limp their vehicle home, But another strike on 55 actually required a tow truck and a full state crash report.
Man, it's just the constant tax we pay for living in the woods.
It really is.
But there was another animal incident that caught my eye, and it felt a lot more, I don't know, personal.
Mm.
Yeah. On County Road P, a resident called in because a neighbor's 4 dogs got loose, crossed the property line, and actually killed their chickens and ducks.
Oh, geez. See,
Yeah.
that shifts the dynamic entirely.
Right. It's not just a wild deer anymore.
No, exactly.
Hmm.
A deer strike is an act of nature. A neighbor's dogs destroying livestock. That is a major breach of the community social contract.
Yeah, tempers would run high on that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The deputies responding to that call, they are just out there enforcing leash laws. They are stepping into a highly volatile economic and emotional dispute. They have to mediate the boundary between two neighbors whose lives have suddenly violently intersected.
Which is a great pivot to how humans negotiate shared spaces, even when there aren't animals involved. Because just looking through these logs, Langlade County residents were heavily testing the unwritten rule book of the neighborhood this week.
The unwritten rule book
Mm.
is the perfect way to phrase it. Because a lot of what the police deal with isn't necessarily criminal. It's really just people trying to figure out where their personal freedom ends and the public safety actually begins.
So true. Let's look at a prime example of this. A resident actually marched right into the safety building to file a formal civil complaint over lawn care.
Wait, lawn care?
Yes.
Ugh.
Their neighbor was blowing grass clippings out of their yard and directly into the road. Now, I'll be honest with you. My first reaction reading that was, come on, it's just grass. Pick your battles.
It does sound like a bit much at first glance.
Right. It sounds like the most petty, stereotypical neighbor grievance imaginable.
It does sound petty until you read the crucial context in that report.
Right, exactly.
Because those grass clippings were being blown across a route where a group of 14 motorcycle riders were passing through.
Which completely changes the stakes. But help me understand the actual danger here. Why is grass such a huge threat to a motorcycle? I don't ride, so I don't get it.
Okay, so it comes down to the physics of friction. Freshly cut grass clippings are like about 85% water.
Okay.
When a mower blade slices them, it releases all that moisture, along with plant oils.
Mm-hmm.
So when those wet clippings are scattered across dry asphalt, they essentially create this slick barrier between a tire and the road. The friction coefficient of wet grass clippings on pavement is remarkably close to a patch of black ice.
Black ice in July. That is a terrifying thought for someone on 2 wheels.
Precisely. And a motorcycle only has 2 small contact patches with the road, each about the size of a credit card.
Wow, really? Just a credit card?
Yeah, it's a very small area.
Yeah.
So if a pack of 14 bikes hits a curve covered in slick clippings, the front tires can wash out instantly. It's just a perfect illustration of how an isolated, seemingly innocent action on your own private property, like just doing your chores, can ripple into a multi-vehicle hazard.
That makes total sense.
So the police and those riders, they correctly identified it as a life safety issue, not just a landscaping complaint.
Okay, I am totally changing my tune on the grass thing then. Now let's look at another public space dispute. And this one is, well, it's a bit more comical.
I could use comical.
Up at Summit Lake, right off US 45, a family decided they wanted to enjoy a nice, relaxing afternoon wading in the water. So they dragged a heavy, public wooden picnic table off the beach and straight into the lake.
Oh, my goodness. I try to put myself in their shoes.
Do you?
I do. You want a place to set your drinks and your snacks while you stay cool in the water.
Yeah.
It's innovative in a way.
Innovative, sure. I'll give you innovative. But forestry was not amused. They were actually notified about this rogue picnic table.
Well, yeah, because there are explicit postings not to move the infrastructure into the water.
Right.
It degrades the wood, it disrupts the lake bed, and honestly, it deprives everyone else at the park of a place to eat.
So the deputy went out, had a little chat with the family, and they agreed to haul the heavy, waterlogged table back onto dry land. No citations, no arrests. Just a gentle reminder that public amenities aren't personal watercraft.
And that intervention is the absolute bedrock of community policing.
Yeah, just talking to folks.
Exactly. It is about maintaining the shared environment. The goal isn't to punish the family. It's really to ensure that the next family pulling up to Summit Lake actually has a functioning park to enjoy.
Right. Now, contrast that slightly too relaxed lake day with this next call. Because this one paints a very different picture of the rural landscape. A caller reached out about a man walking southbound down State Road 55.
Okay.
He was wearing a hoodie, carrying a plastic bag, and according to the caller, he would periodically stop, hunch down, and just yell at the top of his lungs into the woods.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a call like that immediately escalates in the dispatch center.
I bet.
A pedestrian acting erratically on a major state highway could indicate a severe mental health crisis, maybe substance impairment, or even someone fleeing a dangerous situation.
Right, so a second caller actually confirmed the exact same behavior, noting he was headed out of Crandon. So the authorities go out, they do a welfare check, and what do they find?
What was it?
The guy wasn't in danger. He had no specific destination. He told the officer he was simply, and I quote, yelling just to get frustrations out.
Which is a fascinating psychological use of our rural environment.
Honestly, I totally get it. Haven't we all wanted to just walk down an empty stretch of State Road 55 and scream at the pine trees? I mean, it's way cheaper than therapy.
It was highly relatable.
How obby.
But, it also highlights the threshold for public concern in Langlade County.
How do you mean?
Well, the community saw behavior that breached the normal, expected social contract of a roadside pedestrian. But they didn't just lock their doors and drive past.
Right, multiple people called it in.
Exactly. Multiple people called to ensure the individual wasn't in distress.
Yeah.
And once the deputies realized he was just utilizing the vastness of the Northwoods as this massive open-air venting session, they just let him be. The system worked perfectly.
It really shows people are paying attention. And that actually ties directly into a massive trend in this week's blotter, which is the local lost and found.
Oh, yes. This was interesting.
The sheer volume of valuable items that Langlade County residents are just absentmindedly leaving behind is staggering to me.
The blotter this week reads much less like a criminal log and much more like a community bulletin board.
It really does. Let me run down just a few of these for you. At the Three Sisters Cafe, inside Aspirus Langlade Hospital, someone left behind a black iPad with a magnetic keyboard attached, just sitting on a table.
Wow.
Then, out by a gas station pump, someone found a gold ring with a blue turquoise gem surrounded by Black Hills gold,
Just at the pump.
just sitting there. And my absolute favorite, a silver ring with small diamonds was found and turned in right at the front counter of the courthouse.
See, these are high-value, highly pawnable items.
Very much so.
If you leave an iPad on a table or a diamond ring on a counter in a major metropolitan area, the half-life of those items is measured in seconds.
Oh, that's a
They are gone. But here, they are being secured by strangers and reported to the authorities.
All right, I have to challenge you on this a little bit, though.
All right, go for it.
Is this really a sign of, like, a superior moral compass in Langlade County? Or is it just the reality of small-town logistics? I mean, if I steal an iPad in Antigo, everyone knows my cousin, they know my truck, and the police will probably figure out it was me by Tuesday.
That's a fair point.
So is it honesty, or is it just the fear of getting caught?
That is a very fair pushback, and there is certainly a pragmatism to small-town crime. Anonymity is much harder to come by around here. But I would argue it goes a bit deeper than just a fear of getting caught.
Okay.
I think it points to a highly localized social contract.
So, like, what do you mean?
Well, in a deeply interconnected community, a lost item isn't viewed as a windfall. Like if you find a wallet on the sidewalk of Neva Road, you don't look at it and see free cash.
Right.
You see a wallet that likely belongs to someone who shops at the same grocery store as you or whose kids play baseball with yours. The blotter is serving this unconventional role as a trusted repository because the community inherently views each other's property as an extension of their neighbors, not just as abandoned loot.
I see what you're saying. It's the difference between finding something in a faceless crowd versus finding something in your own living room.
Exactly.
And we saw everyday essentials, too, not just jewelry. A blue Chase bank card found right in the middle of State Road 47, wallets and iPhones scattered along the sidewalks. The person who found that bank card didn't try to go swipe it at a gas station.
No, they didn't.
They called it in, so dispatch could actually track down the name on the front.
It highlights a really reassuring reality, but it also highlights a massive amount of human distraction.
Oh, absolutely.
We are all rushing around, our minds are elsewhere, and things just slip through the cracks.
And that rushing, distracted energy doesn't just happen on the sidewalks, it happens behind the wheel, too.
Oh, definitely.
So let's shift gears a bit and look at life on the asphalt. The traffic safety stops this week tell a really interesting story about how our local patrol actually functions.
Because people often view traffic enforcement through a purely punitive lens, right?
Yeah, tickets and fines.
We think of speed traps and ticket quotas. But the reports from this week paint a picture of a patrol that functions much more like a community safety net.
I like to think of them as the town's check engine light.
Oh, I like that.
They are out there catching minor structural issues before they cause a catastrophe. Like, for example, on Superior Street near 7th Avenue, officers were literally pulling people over just to inform them that their tailgates were open.
Which is not a crime.
No, that's not a crime at all. They're just trying to stop someone's groceries or power tools from bouncing out onto the highway.
The check engine light is a great way to conceptualize it. And what's crucial is that the patrol relies heavily on the public to tell them where that light is flashing, because they can't be everywhere at once.
True. And we saw a pretty wild example of this down near the baseball
A
field.
muffler incident.
Yes. Down on 2nd Avenue and Langlade Road, a baseball spectator actively flagged down a passing officer. The spectator reported a Nissan SUV driving aggressively fast past all the pedestrian traffic leaving the game.
Which is bad enough.
Right. But the kicker was that the spectator noticed something physically hanging down from under the undercarriage of the car. They noted it had passed by 3 times and almost struck a pedestrian with whatever was dragging.
See, that spectator performed a vital public service.
Totally.
They weren't just annoyed by someone revving their engine. They identified a mechanical defect that made a speeding vehicle exponentially more dangerous in a crowded pedestrian zone.
Yeah, they really stepped up.
They utilized the officer's proximity to intercept a threat before someone's ankles got taken out by a dangling muffler.
Now, we did have some other bizarre driving behaviors that went way beyond mechanical issues.
Oh boy.
Yeah, on Nantasket Street, a caller reported a vehicle driving past where the occupants were actively shooting fireworks out the window of the moving car.
That transforms a vehicle from a mode of transportation into a mobile arson unit.
Mobile arson unit, that's perfectly put.
I mean, the danger there isn't just to the occupants, it's to the surrounding dry brush, the homes, and honestly, anyone else on the road. It's an incredibly reckless use of space.
And then we have a situation on US 45 passing through Burnhamwood, which was the exact opposite of reckless speeding.
Right.
A caller reported a black Nissan Rogue going 25 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. The driver was weaving out of their lane, and they were putting on their turn signals randomly where there were no cross streets or driveways to turn into.
Now, when you read a report like that, what comes to your mind first?
Honestly, I assume it's a drunk driver.
Right. That's the most common assumption. But for law enforcement, a vehicle operating that far outside the norm, just crawling along and signaling into the wilderness, is a huge red flag for an active medical impairment.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it could be intoxication, absolutely, but it could also be a diabetic emergency, maybe a severe stroke, or a driver having a cardiac event.
That is terrifying.
It is. And the caller who reported this was willing to leave a statement, which shows the public understands that pulling over that slow-moving Nissan isn't about writing a ticket for impeding traffic, right?
That's about saving them.
Exactly. It's a life-saving interception.
The variety of what dispatch and patrol have to handle is just staggering to me. You go from intercepting a stroke victim on US 45 to dealing with the absolute headaches of modern technology.
Oh, the technology.
The 911 hang-up calls in this blotter deserve their own documentary.
The accidental dispatches are a perfect reflection of how our personal technology violently collides with emergency infrastructure.
Like, take this one, for example. Dispatch gets a 911 hang-up one afternoon. They have to trace the ping, dedicate resources to finding the location, and it turns out someone was simply walking out of work, and their smartwatch accidentally dialed the police.
Wearable technology is a massive hurdle for modern dispatch centers.
I can imagine.
I mean, a watch gets bumped against a doorframe, and suddenly a 911 operator is brought into the fold.
And it gets better, which brings us right back to where we started today. An open 911 line comes in. Dispatch is listening closely. They don't hear screaming. They hear a customer casually ordering food in a drive-thru.
The burger call.
The burger call. They eventually had to get a hold of a restaurant employee to confirm that everything was 10-2 all secure.
But think about the psychological burden on that dispatcher.
Right.
An open line with background chatter could be a kidnapping in progress. It could be a domestic violence victim trying to secretly keep a line open.
That's so heavy.
It is. The dispatcher has to listen to someone ordering a burger and fries with the intensity and focus of a hostage negotiator, analyzing every background noise until they can be absolutely certain it's just an unlocked phone in a pocket. The infrastructure literally has to bend to accommodate our carelessness.
It's such a thankless job, but it proves someone is always listening. Which actually brings us to our community takeaway of the week.
All right, let's hear it.
For everyone listening, let's synthesize what Langlade County taught us this week. First, if you live near a motorcycle route, please sweep up your grass clippings. Don't turn the asphalt into an ice rink.
Excellent advice.
Second, double check your tailgate and your pockets when leaving the gas pump. And finally, if you're at Summit Lake, please leave the heavy wooden picnic tables on dry land. The forestry department will thank you.
I think the overarching takeaway is much deeper, though.
Yeah.
Imagine an outsider, let's say an alien from another planet,
Yeah.
arrived here, and their only context for humanity was this single week's police blotter. What would they conclude about us?
They'd probably think we're terrified of cows and really love yelling at pine trees.
I mean, they might. On the surface, it looks like this chaotic mess of runaway livestock, misplaced diamond rings, and accidental smartwatch calls.
Very true.
But if they looked closer, they would see the underlying truth. We are a deeply watchful, intensely interconnected community that insists on looking out for each other.
That's a great point.
Whether it's turning in a lost bank card, reporting a slow-moving car to save a life, or just pulling someone over to tell them their tailgate is open, the blotter proves we are actively paying attention to one another.
That is a brilliant thought to mull over your coffee. We might be a little messy, and we definitely drop our iPads way too often, but we are actively looking out for our neighbors.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Stay safe on the roads, keep an eye on those livestock gates, and we'll catch you next time.